Welcome again to Joe Stunner Boxing, all the way from Gdansk in Poland. I hope you're doing well. As you are no doubt aware, this coming weekend we have Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Bud Crawford. A catchweight, essentially a catchweight contest between a guy who is the current, which was it, WB, I forget which belt he owns, one of the 154-pound belts. He's only had one fight at 154. He was, of course, undisputed at 147 and 140. And he's jumping up a couple of weights to take on the undisputed champion at 168, which is Canelo Alvarez. So there's all this brouhaha about it. And I will be doing a preview video, and I will be talking more about that fight in later videos. But here's something. This sort of amused me. And infuriated me in different ways, probably in equal measures. But I was on one of the boxing Facebook pages, I can't remember which one, and I'm reading all the comments, most of which are either ill-informed or banal. And someone suggested, how would Terence Crawford get on against Sam Langford? Now, it's a bit of a strange matchup, even historically. But the contempt that was being thrown at Sam Langford suggested that most of the people who were just dismissing him, I mean, one guy called him a midget. The man was bigger than Terence Crawford as an adult. Of course, Langford started his, career in his mid-teens when hence the reason he was a lightweight, and he fought everyone up to heavyweight. But someone called him a midget. So other people were dismissive. I'm saying he was a crude plodder, and all right. That's not to say, of course, that Bud Crawford couldn't beat Sam Langford. It is certainly possible. Bud Crawford is a great fighter. I think, his resume is in no shape or form comparable to Sam Langford, but there are other intangibles you have to take into consideration. Now, I've done a video on Sam Langford, so I'm not going to go through his entire resume again. I mean, I think that would be kind of a facile thing to do, but let's put it this way. Sam Langford, in case you didn't know, beat Hall of Famers in every division from lightweight to heavyweight. And he even got a draw against Jack Johnson. And Johnson was reluctant to give him a proper world title shot. Langford held what was called the coloured heavyweight title on several occasions. The coloured heavyweight title, when you look at the quality of the champions and the opposition, was probably higher than the generally accepted heavyweight title. I mean, I know Jack Johnson was a great fighter, and he held the supposedly legitimate title. But don't dismiss the coloured heavyweight title. Go and look at the people that held that, and look at the people they fought. And all of this is kind of factors into the argument. These are intangibles, of course, but we have to at least give both fighters a fair assessment, objectively. I should also mention that when I mentioned the quality of Sam Langford's opposition, he fought Harry Wills. He beat Joe Gans when Gans was the lightweight champion, but the belt wasn't on the line. All right, and he was only a young man at the time, Sam Langford. He beat Joe Jeanette. If you don't know these names, please, look them up. He was beating people like Harry Wills, another heavyweight. Jeanette and Wills were heavyweights. He lost some, but he won most. And bear in mind that Sam Langford was probably, when he was in his prime, I'd say maybe a super middleweight. He was about a modern day super middleweight. Okay, he beat Sam McVeigh. He beat Jim Johnson, battling Jim Johnson. He actually fought Jack Blackburn, who was Joe Lewis's trainer. He fought him 6 times. He was another one that was never going to get a title shot because he was black. So what did they do? They fought each other. He beat Barbados Joe Walcott as well. Not Joe Walcott, who held the heavyweight title, Barbados Joe Walcott. Again, look him up. Do your research. Look at the history. Look at these guys' records. Look how good they were. Now, the argument in favour of Bud Crawford that a lot of people were making on this thread is that Crawford, he's a modern fighter, they're so much better, they're better conditioned, They've got far more skills. In other words, boxing has evolved to the point from where Langford was fighting 100 years ago, they looked like clumsy novices compared to the modern fighters. Okay, well, let's have a think about that. Now, when you match Terence Crawford with Sam Langford, what are we saying? Are we saying that the Sam Langford of 1920, 1915, whatever, are we putting that Sam Langford in with the 2025 Terence Crawford? Or are we being fair about this and saying, okay, you can only match them if you put Crawford back into 100 years ago, or you put Langford 100 years into the future? Because that way they will both have access. They will have both had their careers during the same era in which modern technology, modern dieting, conditioning and so on, physiology, neurology, we know all these things now. We've got, a lot of tools, implements that we can implement and, use to a fighter's betterment. Are we doing that? In which case, I would certainly say that Sam Langford would beat Terence Crawford. Or are we saying that Terence Crawford has to have been born in 1880 something, 1885, fought in that era, been denied all the opportunities, had to fight 100 plus fights, whatever it is that they were fighting back then. They were fighting many more than 100 fights actually. Are we saying that he has to do that in order to fight Langford? Because it seems fair that you balance everything out. You don't just take a Ford Model T and compare it to a modern Bugatti. You know what I mean? The knowledge has to be there. It has to be balanced out. Because if you did take the modern Terence Crawford, the 2025 Terence Crawford, and put him back against the 2010, 2015 Langford, yeah, he'd have a great chance of winning for the reasons that people have stated. But is it fair to do that? Is it not fair to put Crawford back in the 19th century, in the 20th century, or Langford in the 21st century? Because all that stuff, all that external stuff, training, dieting and so on, does matter. And opportunities as well. Look at the amount of times that Langford fought people like Harry Wills and Joe Jeanette, Sam McVeigh. These were heavyweights, by the way. This guy was really a super middleweight. And he wasn't winning them all, but he was beating them. And you can make a very, very significant argument when you break it down, when you consider all the like I say, the intangibles, the pause for thought, ponder a lot, external issues, when you consider all that stuff, you can make a very strong case for Sam Langford being the greatest fighter who ever lived. You really can. Now, there's not many people, Sugar Ray Robinson, Henry Armstrong, Langford, Harry Greb, those are the ones that get mentioned. Muhammad Ali, the top 10. But Langford, look at his career. Look at it. Look at the people he beat. Look when he beat them. At what point they were in their careers. So it does seem to me that these fantasy fights, it's such a weird one, Crawford versus Langford. When I looked at it, I thought I have to read this thread just to see, because it's such a weird left of centre thing. But it is interesting to ponder it. But how are you what's the criteria you're going to use? That's what I'm getting at. You tell me. I've used this as an example of the very old fighters, not quite the pioneers, but certain. Would you call Crawford? Would you call Langford a pioneer? Maybe you would. Langford, by the way, was born in the 1880s. So we are going back. We're talking about a man who was born 140 years ago, or whatever. And Terence Crawford, by the way, what is he now? 38. What would you call his prime? The Crawford that beat Spence? When you look at his resume, I'm just going to play devil's advocate here. I like Crawford, I'm a big Crawford fan, but look at his resume. And then you compare it to Langford's. But look at the opportunities, both in and out of the ring, that were given to Crawford that Langford could only dream of. You have to bear all this in mind. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think. Comments below. And yeah, I hope you like this video. Food for thought, innit? Like the video. Hit that like button if you like the video. Please subscribe to the channel if you're new. We've got lots of videos for you. And I'll read your comments. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now.